Hi guys, it's Abby. I'm with the Healthy Waters program and we're back again for another Wise Water Wednesday. This month our topic's going to be lucky to have water, and we're going to kind of dive into all the reasons water is so important to us and talk about kind of the scarcity of clean fresh water. Hope you enjoy.
So, where can you find water? Well, when you look at Earth, it appears that there's a lot of water. In fact, 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. That's nearly 2/3 of the planet. But upon taking a closer look, we find that most of that water that it makes up the Earth's surface is salt water, and only 2% of it is fresh water. And then if we take a closer look into the fresh water that's on Earth, which again is a very small portion compared to all of the water on Earth, we find that most of it, 68% roughly, is frozen in ice caps and glaciers, which we are unable to get to. Roughly 30% of it is underground, simply in between all of the particles of the soil, or kind of in a collective pool underground called an aquifer. That leaves only 1% that is on the surface as like lakes and streams or little ponds that we can easily get to. So a very, very small percentage of the fresh water, which is already a very small amount of the total amount of water that's on the planet, is easier for us to get access to. The rest of it is deep below the Earth's surface or frozen in a way that we humans cannot get to. But of this easy access surface water, roughly 0.5% of it is clean enough for people to drink and use. This is in part due to pollution that has occurred. Once a body of water gets a bunch of trash or chemicals in it that are not good for human health, we can't use it anymore to get water from to drink or to clean ourselves in or for cooking. And then it makes that water unusable, and then therefore further limiting how much fresh water that we can use. So let's take a look at this in a more visual manner. To do this, I have 4 containers and an amount of water. In the beaker is all of the water that is available to us on Earth. Um, Most of it is salt water, and all the water that is still in the beaker is salt water. The water that's in the glass graduated cylinder there is fresh water, which is only roughly 3% of all of the water that was in the beaker. And then the amount that we're pouring into the plastic graduated cylinder is going to be the amount of fresh water that is unavailable to humans. So it's going to be either frozen in the ice caps, like we talked about, or in the ground in between particles, or super deep below the surface in a way that we don't have access to. So the water that we do have access to and that we can use, so that's going to be like our surface water or the stuff that I was talking about before that's kind of pooling under the surface but is reachable in the aquifer, that's what's in the little plastic container. As you can see, it's a really, really small amount, just like a little drop of water. And that's why protecting the fresh water that we have access to is so important, because in the overall scheme of things, it's very small. Well, what's the big deal with fresh water? Who even needs fresh water? Well, we do. We need water to drink. About 70% of our body is made of water, and so we need to keep replenishing that because we tend to sweat it out, or like as you breathe air in and breathe it back out, some of the moisture is removed from our body, so we need to be constantly replenishing that. We also need water to help keep ourselves clean, washing our hands, showering. We need water to help us grow our food for irrigating purposes. We need water to help when we cook. When you boil pasta, you do it in water. So we have a lot of needs and uses for clean, fresh water. But we're not the only ones that need water. So we're going to take a little trip out to Bissell Park to check out some of the other animals that need fresh water. So insect larvae. This guy here is a mayfly larva. He lives under rocks in water. And then we have minnows, aquatic salamanders like this guy crawling along here in the water. You can also see on the rocks there's plant life growing, so animals um, are not the only ones living in water that need clean water. And then there are crawfish like these ones here. Some big guys, little guys, lots of varieties. There are a lot of other organisms that live in and depend on clean water also. However, these are just some ones that we found at the park. It is so important for them to live in clean water because they're constantly surrounded by it. They get everything they need from it. So, a clean, healthy environment is especially important for them. However, other animals that don't live in water need clean water also, like your pet dog, or if you have a pet cat, they need clean drinking water just like we do. So it's important to remember that fresh, clean water is needed by more than those that live in it. Now we'll be moving on to our activity, and this month we'll be making a crystal four-leaf clover. For the first step, we're going to be making the solution that the pipe cleaner will be submerged in. It's simply borax and water. The appropriate ratios and instructions for each of these steps can be found in the linked document below. We used roughly 2 cups of water and therefore 2 tablespoons of borax. However, you may have to adjust depending on the size of the container that you are going to be using. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and take our pipe cleaner and then shape it into our four-leaf clover shape. I found it easiest to start at one end and then make each leaf of the clover separately and then wrap any excess around the middle to kind of keep it secure. Also, at this point, we had allowed our solution to cool enough to move it into the container that we would be submerging our pipe cleaner in. And as you can see, the mouth of the container is a little bit smaller, so it'll be easier to lay the popsicle stick across the top, which is something you'll want to keep in mind. This is kind of my final product for this one. I did have an extra one already made that had a stem attached to it, but you don't have to add one if you wouldn't like to. And then you're going to go ahead and take a piece of string and tie it onto the pipe cleaner. Keep in mind the length of your string will impact how much of the pipe cleaner will end up going into the solution, and then how much will end up being covered in crystals. There, you're going to want to go ahead and grab your popsicle stick and using the other end of the string, tie the pipe cleaner to the popsicle stick, which will then be used to lay across the top of your container and allow the pipe cleaner to dangle into the solution like so. And then you're just going to want to wait. 24 hours is recommended for the best crystal production. After 24 hours is up, you can go ahead and remove your pipe cleaner from the solution and let it dry for about an hour, and you should be left with something covered with crystals. It might be more covered in crystals than the one that was made in this project, but you'll end up having a crystal covered pipe cleaner four-leaf clover.